Brent Veach said the Chiefs are anticipating that tight end Travis Kelce will return for the 2025 NFL regular season. Veach says Kelce still has that fire and desire to play. Okay. So assuming that is true, let us discuss the question. How much does Travis Kelce actually have left in the tank for the Chiefs? Because the GM here is talking about fire and desire and all that. So I've got John Bon Jovi, Oprah's Book Club, and air filtration system. And we will combine these three things that have never been combined together, and we are going to knock down a money ball. Because one of my nicknames is Moneyball Maller, and I will knock down a money ball. So first of all, the response from the Chiefs, if it is accurate, and remember, there's a weasel word that is in there, but if it's accurate, this is what we expect. We expect Travis Kelce to come back and play. I will warn you that anticipation is weasel verbiage, right? Remember when you were a kid, you anticipated for your birthday or the holidays getting a certain gift, and maybe you didn't get it, but you anticipated you were going to get it, right? You're out dating, you anticipate things are going to go one way, maybe they go the other way, but you anticipated, right? Anticipation is not guaranteed satisfaction, so there is that. And the advice that we have given out behind the bully pulpit here at Fox Sports Radio is, hey, just keep going until the wheels on the bus go round and round and then just fall off. Just keep going, right? He's on his way, Kelce, to doing that. And I think of this in the context of grizzled rock and roll music, right? You think about over time in your life, maybe you like certain bands or whatever, and you watch them grow old as you get older and all that. And I'm going to use John Bon Jovi as an example. Use him as the comp to Travis Kelce, right? So back in the day, Bon Jovi dominated. They had many classic all-time hits, topped the music charts, and they dominated the music world for a period of time. But those days are long gone, like a house by the side of the road. And John Bon Jovi, the voice, not the same, right? Lost his fastball, doesn't quite have that, and it's harder to hit those high notes. You just can't do it. But yet, you go out and perform, and you can sell a bunch of tickets and all that. And even though he's not that great anymore, people say, well, that's the people I like John Bon Jovi. I'm going to continue to support John Bon Jovi, even though he's not as good as he used to be. And now, as far as Kelce backing up that he's not as good as he used to be, from 2016 to 2022, Travis Kelce went over 1,000 yards as a tight end, receiving 7 straight years, over 1,000 yards. That's an NFL record. The last 2 years, he has failed to crack the 1,000-yard mark in either of the last 2 seasons. This past season, Travis Kelce had just 3 more touchdown catches in the regular season than you and I had. And his numbers in many of the most important categories, down. So he is the definition of a falling star, Travis Kelce. Now, later this hour, we'll check the star charts. We'll find out if it's in the stars or not for Travis Kelce. But this is the issue. Now, vintage players, we've seen this over time, and it hasn't changed even though all the nerds and all the medical geniuses all put everything together. It really hasn't changed, right? That you can have that rare and appropriate, outstanding performance that is a flashback performance. Outstanding. However, those performances are few and far between. Maybe once every month and a half, you'll go out and have a big game. But the rest of the time, you're guilty of absenteeism. That's the problem. It is the plague of the older athlete. There are some peaks, but there's a lot of valleys and a lot of droughts and not any water anywhere. Now, continuing that theme here, page 2. So the Chiefs GM, Brent Veach, also talked about Travis Kelce's lackluster performance in the Super Bowl that was played earlier this month. And he indicated that the reason Kelce sucked at a time you cannot suck was the result of him battling a pretty big illness before the game. So where are you at? Where are you at on the Chiefs general manager cooking up an alibi that Travis Kelce, his truancy was not his fault. He was under the weather in the Super Bowl. All right, so for those that don't remember, Travis Kelce caught 4 passes for 39 yards. I think at least 2 of those were in garbage time in the fourth quarter. So it sounds to me on this side of the microphone, it sounds to me like Brett Veach, the GM there, has taken part in Oprah's book club. And the book of the month is the Big Book of Excuses. That is the book of the month, the Big Book of Excuses, which includes excuses for every occasion. It is, my word is unbecoming. Now, I know why you do it. You got to stand by your guy and all that stuff. However, that was such a suckbag performance. You talk about riding the vomit comet for Travis Kelce. And the video that several of you idiots have sent me of Kelce, is it the all 22 of Kelce doing matador blocks? Ole, 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 ole. Low energy, just like looked like it was a preseason game and he wanted to get over and off the field as quickly as possible. Man alive, right? I mean, geez, he had alligator arms on the blocking, but he was an alligator with no teeth. That's the problem. You know, you suck at a time you cannot suck, and he did it, stinking up the joint. And the whole thing about how he was under the weather, so that's your flu game. Well, you only get credit for a flu game if you play well. The Jordan flu game, which I guess was food poisoning we saw in that Last Dance documentary, or the Kobe Bryant thing, which was also, I guess, food poisoning. But either way, you're remembered if you play well in that game, not if you suck. And if I'm not mistaken, several members of the Philadelphia Eagles supposedly had the norovirus that was going around, and they still were able to play and dominate at the line of scrimmage in the trenches. All right, final thought. So we head now to Lost Wages, Nevada, where the Raiders making some headlines. Well, at least their new coach is. What is your interpretation of the comments made by Pete Carroll when asked about coming out of retirement at the Combine? And a reporter said, "Hey, Pete, what are you coming out of retirement here?" He said, if you remember, I didn't retire, is the quote. He said, if you remember, I didn't retire. So what is your interpretation of that? All right, so this is kind of easy, and it buys into a previous Maller monologue we did a while back, that Pete Carroll now has decided that he is going to crank up the air filtration system. Now, what does that mean? Let me explain. So that means he's clearing the air now, that he's got another job. He's setting the record straight. And he had to bite his tongue. Nobody wants to bite their tongue. He had to bite his tongue in Seattle there at the end. And the real Seahawk fans, they call them the 12s. They know, right? Crying Craig knows. JJ and Renton, Emmett, the blind Seahawk fan, he knows. The real ones know what's going on here. That Pete Carroll had every intention. In fact, he had said it at the end of the regular season, the year that he was let go. He said, I intend on staying in Seattle. That was his plan. And the Seahawk front office, there was a power play, and he was decommissioned, like a boat taken out of the water. He was decommissioned. There was a power struggle between Pete and I think it was John Schneider, the executive, who ownership sided with the executive. Said, Pete's too old. Got to get a younger coach. So they kicked Pete out of Seattle. They kicked him out there. And Pete Carroll had to show up to that news conference. And I remember we did a monologue right after it. Pete Carroll put on his tap dance shoes, and he held his exit news conference when they announced he was not going to return as the Seahawks coach, and he smiled from ear to ear. He played along, and he was biting his tongue the entire time, the entire time. And he did that because he wanted the parting gift, which was a golden parachute. And so in order to get the golden parachute, you had to play nice, right? You did sing and dance and all that. So he sang and he danced and he played the game, and things have changed and all this stuff. And the Seahawks, they were like, because they knew they were going to get killed because Pete's a popular guy. So what they did was, Pete's going to still be part of the organization. He's going to be an advisor, is what he's going to be. And, of course, that was all just a smokescreen by the Seahawks. He was an advisor, which means he cashed his check every 2 weeks. Or direct deposited his check. And now Pete is unshackled in Vegas. And so, hey, you're letting it rip. Pete Carroll letting her rip. Letting her rip.